Chapter 721, Welcome to Mount Massive Asylum. The customers in the old shops such as Zhongwu and Gutinian in the Yuanyang City shop, Sutanji and Song Kingfing in the Jua City shop, and Ningbai in the Half City shop also showed great attention to the new game. Of course, their focus was different from the newbies in the new shop. In the early morning when Mr. Fang opened the door of the shop, the players of the new shop, including the assassins such as Elena and elves such as Salah, immediately asked upon entering, "Sir, is Outlast released? When would we get to play it?" Meanwhile, the customers in the old shops sent Mr. Fang messages while they walked to the counter. "Sir, is Outlast released or not? When will the players in the new shop get to play it? I say. Why are you guys asking if others are playing the game?" They were so diligent that they asked Mr. Fang the same question every day. In the new shop, most of the players were still playing World of Warcraft, but some players were waiting to try new stuff. After all, there were many leisure players in online games. Now that the earliest players had reached the maximum level, Salah and other players like her just followed her teammates and obtained the first victory in battlegrounds each day before going around to see the scenery. Therefore, these people had lots of time to do stuff. Naturally, such players wanted to try the new game, Outlast. Mr. Fang looked more confident today. It's released today." "Really?" Salah exclaimed. Mr. Fang knocked on the small blackboard, and Salah followed the direction that his finger pointed and saw the words, "New game Outlast, activation price, 15 magic crystals." Then, "Can we play it now?" Salah said in pleasant surprise. "Then, I'll go and activate it right away. Would you please pour a mug of cappuccino for me? Just play the game." "Do you have to have cappuccino?" "Why not? Don't mind me." While rolling her eyes at Mr. Fang, Salah looked quite proud. "I just like it." Okay. "Anyway, I'm making money from this." Mr. Fang wanted to drink cappuccino as well, so he took the opportunity to pour himself a mug. At this moment, a group of elves and assassins sat down at the computers close to the windows in excitement. Salah took the mug of cappuccino from Mr. Fang and sipped it with enjoyment, cheerfully activating the new game with the money deposited in her membership card. "Nana, would you like to play it with me?" Salah asked Elena, who sat across from her. "It seems like we can't connect the game." Elena said while loading the game, "We can play it separately and talk about it when we get some inspirations." Okay. Salah entered the game cheerfully. After all, Salah wasn't even afraid of the evil god. After her experience with the Avengers, she felt quite confident when she entered Outlast. Before Salah was a dim and messy room, which was the background when she entered the game. On the screen were options such as, New Game, and, Load Game, drawn in pale lines. Different from the original game, the system version only offered 2 difficulty levels after players entered the game. One was, Nightmare, which was the normal difficulty, and the other was, Insane, which was a higher difficulty level. At the beginning, the word Insane was gray, which meant that the players could only choose Nightmare. In Insane mode, the chapters couldn't be saved before they were completed. Once the players were dead, all the progress would vanish, and they had to start from the beginning. Naturally, this mode wasn't open for newbies to try. In the original game, when the players entered it, the game would introduce the main character and the background in words. However, the system version was different. After Salah entered the game, she opened her eyes slowly as if she had just woken from a dream in which she had turned into an elf in a world named the Nora continent and had lived a long time in there. Now that she had woken up from the dream, she remembered that she was, in fact, a journalist named Miles. Yes, this feeling was so real that Salah got the illusion that the real world was fake, and this game world was real. Even after the players entered the game, they would still have a blurry sense of surrealism when they recalled things that they had experienced in the real world. In the game, players even had the illusion that the whole world was materialistic, and the intangible things such as magic spells, essence, and combat techniques were exaggerated products of movies and TV series. It was because the players' minds were influenced by the main character. In the game, Sally opened her eyes slowly and thought, "I'm now, Miles, a journalist. I have a plan to reveal the dark core secrets of that massive asylum." Shaking her head, Sally finally remembered that this was a virtual reality gaming space and that exiting the game would get her back to the real world. After she understood the situation, the game finally began. When she drove to the destination, it was midnight. Of course, to save game time, the driving part could be skipped. Right now, Sally was driving on the mountainous road near the destination. The surroundings were pitch black, as if she was driving in a wilderness in midnight. Even with the headlights on, she could only see a few meters before her. Beyond that was thick darkness. She continued driving as if she was heading into the endless darkness. After a long while, she finally saw lights at the end of the mud road. Yes, in this role-playing game, Sally played as a Western journalist who always dreamt of finding a big story. "Have you guys entered the game yet?" Sally asked while driving. Since the main character could drive, Sally could do the driving part by following the memories of the character, just as the players did in the offline mode of Grand Theft Auto 5. Since it was night, she drove slowly and thus encountered no accidents. "I've already driven to the asylum now," Elena said, "but isn't the game named Outlast? I've covered a big distance now and seen no danger at all." After driving through the open iron gates outside the hospital, the main character parked the car and walked in curiously with a video camera that was taken out from the car. It was very dark, and no one seemed to be in the hospital. In the places without lighting, she could only see the surroundings with the night vision of the video camera. Walking in from the side door, the main character saw all kinds of greeneries along the curving corridor. The high building in front of her looked like a modern-styled castle. Of course, this was only a relatively old hospital. "Should we try that live stream?" Sally suggested. Although the live stream software had just been released in the new shop, with their knowledge of the spiritual spell visual projection which was popular on this continent, these people knew that they could show off their gameplay more clearly this way. Chapter 722, How come you slid under the desk during your live stream? In the distant mountains of Colorado, Mount Massive Asylum was a psychiatric hospital that had reopened after a long period of desertion. However, after the hospital was reopened, many mysteries and horrifying things were rumored to have happened in it. The hospital was owned and operated by the multinational corporation Murkoff under the disguise of a charitable organization. It had been operating in secret. Upon receiving a tip-off from an anonymous source inside his hospital, freelance journalist Miles Upshur came here to disclose the criminal conduct of this company with his video camera. The players were in the role of this brave journalist in the game. This was the general plot of Outlast. "Oh, I saw that several new streamers are live streaming Outlast." In the Xuanhuan City shop, some players had experienced the horror in Silent Hill. Those who hadn't played it had heard of this extremely horrifying game from other players. So, when they found that Outlast was a game of the same kind, they didn't enter it as soon as it was released. Instead, they wanted to see if other players played it and planned to watch the live stream of the game first. Among the students of Heavenly Academy, Mew King was one such player. Soon, many other students such as Bai and Tangyu also looked over. "Someone's live streaming it? I'll watch it." At this moment, with a bottle of iced red tea in one hand and her communication jade in the other, Su Tanji was sitting on the spiritual ship that was flying toward Jua City. While sipping iced red tea, she browsed the messages in the communication jade. "Master, Master." Holding a communication jade, her disciple Fengwu yelled, "Here, an elf is live streaming Outlast. There is more than one of them?" The other disciple Xin shrieked, "Many elves are live streaming Outlast. Let me see." Sutanji immediately clicked on her communication jade. Then, she randomly clicked on one link and saw it was indeed an elf. "This elf looks familiar, I'll watch her then." Besides these people, many other players in the old shops were watching the live streams too. Sally only live streamed for a little while and found that there were hundreds of people watching her right now. Yeah. So many people? As an elf with a sense of justice, I must stop the villains from doing evil things here, Sally yelled with indignation while controlling the main character to walk deeper into the hospital. I shall disclose the evil going on in this place. We'll enter this place and see what's inside. With that said, she walked directly toward the main gate. After entering through the big iron gates of the walled property, she found that door of the hospital was closed. Let's enter through the door, Sally explained to her audience as she pushed the door. Clank, clank, clank. Is anyone in there? Sally controlled the main character to push the door, making clanking noises. Sally pushed so much that her hands went numb. Ugh, I can't push it open. She began to pull the door. Clank, clank, clank. She made huge sounds and she pounded on the door. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone watched as the elf wildly pounded the door of the psychiatric hospital. What's this elf doing here? The audience was stupefied by the scene. Oh, I must enter and use Musu. What's happening? Let me show off my skills. Sally had imagined her fancy plans, but she couldn't even open the door at this moment. She was extremely frustrated at this moment. No idea. Now, we know that the main door can't be open. Seeming to realize that she had lost her composure due to her impatience to show off her skills, Sally immediately calmed down and said, then, we must find an entrance from the side. In some areas, this game was similar to Assassin's Creed. Climbing was one of them. Of course, as an ordinary person, the main character couldn't climb as well as the main characters in Assassin's Creed. The main character here had to grab onto wooden frames on one side of the hospital to assist before being able to climb into the building through a window. The room behind the window had been lit, but as soon as Sally jumped in, the light flashed twice and turned dark instantly. Even the audience could see nothing but darkness on the screens. The main character had sensed the thick darkness and ominous atmosphere that engulfed the whole place when driving here. Now, these negative presences seemed to have intensified. At this moment, the ominous feeling and suffocating atmosphere were even more obvious. Oh. It's so dark inside. While sipping iced red tea, Sutanji watched the live stream, thinking that it was a bit creepy in the building. Standing in the room, Sally had a totally different feeling. Through the main character's body, she could feel the darkness pressing on her like a pile of heavy and invisible rocks. It would be no big deal if Sally imagined such a scenario during the day. However, standing there at midnight, she felt chills running down her spine and couldn't help but wonder if something would suddenly jump out from the deep darkness around her. As an ordinary person, Miles could influence the players with his thoughts and senses. The suffocating feeling forced Sally to draw in a deep breath. Then, she quickly turned on the video camera and checked the surroundings with the night vision. Since the surroundings were so dark that one couldn't see their own fingers without the video camera, the players had to observe the world through the video camera with night view mode. Through the night view mode, everything was grayish-green like the creepy supernatural scenes in the old movies. How come I feel like something is not right? While holding the video camera, Sally felt her way in the darkness and said to the audience in her live stream room, but this main character. His heart rate so fast that Sally could even hear the thumping heartbeats while an excruciating headache attacked her. Sally couldn't decide if it was a result of the lack of oxygen caused by the high pressure that the main character felt or it was her own problem. After inhaling deeply, she held her breath and exhaled slowly. She didn't dare to exhale too fast to make noises. In this state, she couldn't use any of her combat strength even if she had it, let alone that she didn't possess any combat strength at all in the game. Creak. Perhaps it was due to wind or other reasons. The narrow window closed by itself. In the silent room, the rattling noises made by the wind blowing on the air duct were especially irritating. With the light coming from the hall through the glass window on the side of the room, Sally finally turned off her video camera. The only exit for her was the half-open door on her right. It seems like no one is here. Salah told the audience and pushed open the door. Ah! The character on the screen jumped in fright. A corpse hung before the main character upside down, and the light flashed twice. Sipping iced red tea, Xuanhuan watched the live stream and said, "Ha ha ha, this elf is so fun to watch. She jumps when she is scared." Who? Seeing that it was a corpse, Salah heaved out a breath of relief. "It gave me such a fright." Hurriedly, she explained to the audience, "This is nothing, he. Let's move on." She hadn't shown off her skills yet. Controlling the main character, Salah ventured deeper inside. Walking down the path through the rooms, she walked to the other side of the corridor. The atmosphere felt even creepier. She seemed to hear someone talk around the corner at the end of the corridor, but when she walked over, no one was there. The path before her was blocked by a desk and a wooden shelf, but she could squeeze through by walking sideways. "This game looks simple, huh?" Salah said while slowly squeezing through the crevice between the bookshelf and the desk. At this moment, she felt that a cold hand grabbed her shoulder. She turned her head and saw a fat and nightmarishly distorted face. Before she could have a clear look, her body broke through the window behind her and flew out of it, which was several floors high. Ah! In a flash, Salah exited from virtual reality mode. While putting down her virtual reality headset, she stood up and slipped. At this moment, most of the players in the internet cafe were all in the games, and a few players were walking past in the corridor with bowls of instant noodles in their hands. Suddenly, they heard a scream. Clank, a noise sounded. Everyone looked over, and they saw an elf getting up from under the desk and looking at the people around her in confusion. Dust was all over her hair and face. What? How come you slid under the desk while live streaming? Chapter 723, continue the live stream. I have had special training on survival skills. Huh? Where's that elf? I and other students were also watching Salah's live stream. Mew King ate some potato chips and said, "It seemed like the elf vanished in a flash." At this moment, in the camera of the live stream room, they saw a confused elf sticking out her head from below. I just slipped. With a red face, Salah returned to her computer chair and explained with great dignity and a "please believe me" look. Meanwhile, Mr. Fang was chatting in a group chat in QQ with a bowl of instant noodles in his hands. I stood behind an elf and watched her play out last. I lowered my head to eat noodles, and when I looked up, she had fallen under the desk. Xuanhuan, who was also watching Salah's live stream, almost had a spit take when this message suddenly popped up. "So dumb and cute, ha 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 ha. I was watching it too, ha 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 ha, _carrot. She was squeezing through a bookshelf when a fat guy jumped her. I also quickly posted a message in the group. Then, she vanished from the camera. Now I know that she slid under the desk." Salah had just snapped back to her senses, and she glanced at the messages in her live stream room. Elder Su sent you 666 goose eggs. Young Master Song gifted you 10 awesome. Jiang of Royal Clan Guild gifted. So many people sent gifts to me. This was Salah's first live stream, and she felt incredulous. "Salah, where are you now?" Elena, who was sitting across from her, asked. "Someone just threw me down the building. He suddenly appeared while I was squeezing through the crack and couldn't run away. It scared me." At this moment, Salah hadn't re-entered the game yet. "You were caught off guard by his sudden appearance, right?" Elena said. "You didn't have any warning." However, as an assassin, Elena's mind was stronger than Salah's. "Nana, are you still in the game?" Salah asked in a hurry. "I am." "Really?" Salah replied and wasn't willing to admit defeat. "Then, I'll play some more. That guy wasn't so scary, he just caught me off guard." "Right, don't be paranoid," Elena said while playing the game. "I'll find a good weapon and show you how to fight." "Yeah, you're so good." Salah looked at Elena in surprise. Since these two sat facing each other, Sally couldn't see Alina's screen. At this moment, on Alina's screen, she was filming her surroundings with the video camera. Huh? It's a dead end. She looked for a long while until she discovered something above her. So, there is a vent that I can get into. No one has tried to throw me down yet. I haven't seen him. All I saw were dead bodies. At this moment Nano isn't afraid at all. Sally sat straighter. Okay, we'll continue the live stream. As an elf with the sense of justice, I can't stop until I reveal all the criminal acts in here. Hey, this elf is continuing with her live stream. The audience continued to watch cheerfully. After entering the game again, Sally felt as if all the bones in her body would dislocate. However, the main character was lucky that he didn't die of the fall or even break any bones. However, the main character's internal organs had obviously received shocks and damage. He felt dizzy with ringing in his ears and was listless. A priest suddenly appeared, mumbling something unintelligible. He gave the main character an injection which made the latter feel better. Of course, one injection couldn't heal all the injuries caused by the fall from several floors high. His physical conditions were obviously not good. If you were in your physical prime, you wouldn't feel very frightened when you ventured into a dangerous place. However, if you almost died from a fall and was greatly weakened by it, it wasn't hard to imagine how you would feel in such an extremely dangerous place. This weak feeling, both physically and mentally, also reflected on the player. Obviously, the main task of the game had changed. The main character had come here to do an investigation, but now his task was fleeing from this place. At this moment, Sally felt like her body was as heavy as lead. How can I continue the game like this? She wanted to quit from the game. The game was totally different from what she had imagined. She was not only an ordinary person but was severely injured. How can I use Musu in such a state? In such a state, even a legendary saint-level master would probably be knocked down by an ordinary person with a club. The most important thing was that Sally's head felt dizzy while her body felt numb. She would feel better if she was in a healthy state. At least she would know what to do and would have the energy to dodge and attack. But now, I feel like I had the ability to fight that monster before I fell. While panting, Sally opened her mouth and explained, in fact, I'm not so faint-hearted. You guys must trust me. Before I fell, I had the ability to fight that monster. But now, let's see how I can get out of this place. Obviously, this hospital was fully enclosed. Now that she fell from upstairs, she lost her chance to go back the way she came. In the enclosed lobby and rooms, only a few places had lights and got rid of darkness. However, the areas around the dimly lit places were still pitch black, looking even darker due to the effects of the lights. Walking through the corridor on one side of the lobby, Sally saw bloodstains everywhere and even headless corpses. This one must be dead. Sally swallowed with difficulty, feeling dizzy due to her poor physical conditions. It can't get up again, right? While sipping iced red tea, Sutanji posted a bullet comment. This kind of game released by this shop is all scary. Tangyu said, I think this elf is faint-hearted. I just saw another elf who's bolder than her. Hey. Sally was displeased at this bullet comment and demanded while slamming her hand on the desk, I'm not afraid, it was just an accident. The message says that I'm faint-hearted and another elf is brave. That's unbearable. I must redeem myself, otherwise, the players in the old shops will laugh at me. While holding her breath, Sally tiptoed into the pitch-black room and tried to find some clues, continuing with the game. In a while, I'll show you how I get away from this place. This Outlast is just an escape game. Although the safest escape is killing all the enemies, but my physical conditions don't allow me to do that. But still, I have had special trainings on survival skills. Chapter 724, a large group of haters are arriving on the battleground. In the early stage of Outlast, there were no supernatural phenomenons. but people in this place were all mentally ill patients who had been tortured so hard that they were almost no longer humans. In other words, they were monsters, due to the failure of the experiments. These people's appearances and thinking process all became different from ordinary people. If you didn't know that they were humans, you would think that they were monsters to begin with. It would be best not to be caught by them. If you were caught by them, you might end up worse than in a supernatural phenomenon. You could never imagine what an unhinged half-human, half-monster being would do to you. In the Xuanhuan city shop, the students were watching this elf's live stream while eating potato chips. On the screen, Salah bent down and sneaked into a control room. So lame. Mew King crunched on potato chips and posted a bullet comment. I feel like she's making herself into a ball and rolling forward. Tang Yu and other students enjoyed this live stream very much. On the screen, Salah's ears perked up like those of a rabbit while she glanced around the room. Seeing no danger, Salah said, "This must be the place, right?" Then, she heaved a sigh of relief. Next, Salah began to use the computer in the document room. Since the main character knew how to use computers, she had no problems logging into the computer and began unlocking the main gate. After I open the gate in this control room, I can get out, right? It feels so simple. Salah said while she operated the computer. At this moment, a creepy figure suddenly appeared on the surveillance monitor beside the computer. Ah! Her hand shook, and the mouse flew out of her hand. Salah looked at the surveillance monitor and saw that the priest who had appeared after the main character fell from upstairs pulled down the power switch with a cracking sound. The entire control room was instantly plunged into darkness. Meanwhile, the voice of the fat demon-like monster sounded outside the door. In total darkness, Salah could tell that the footsteps were slowly moving toward this room. There was no exit except for the door. Salah had nowhere else to go. She was trapped. Ah! Salah screamed inside, getting anxious in the room as she quickly walked around. There's a locker behind you. Hide in the locker. Ha 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 ha. This elf is so afraid. Ha 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 ha. I think she'll faint in fear. Enjoying the live stream, Sutanji posted bullet comments and sipped iced red tea. Obviously, it wasn't scary to experience the game through the screen. Master, do you think this elf will be caught? Feng Wu asked. While the monster-like man broke down the door and entered the room, Salah instantly slipped into the locker behind her. Through the slit on the locker and with the aid of the dim light outside the control room, Salah watched as the fat man searched the room and roared in a low voice, "You were here, right?" Then, Salah saw the monster walking toward the locker that she was hiding in. Clank. The locker next to the one that she was hiding in was opened. This monster didn't seem to find anything. Then, Salah heard a series of faint footsteps. It seemed like this man was walking toward her locker. A drop of cold sweat slid down Salah's face when she heard the footsteps getting closer. How about bursting out of the locker? Someone tentatively suggested with a bullet comment. Right. If you burst out now, you will certainly catch him off guard. The students in Xuanhuan City shop who were crunching away potato chips immediately posted bullet comments. Then, I will go out now. I really mean it. Clank. Salah pushed open the door of the locker. Ah! Then, she raced out as if her pants were on fire. This elf was so fast that even the fat man who was about to open the locker door froze with his hand reaching out. Ah! She vanished in a flash. My goodness. Can this journalist run this fast? The audience froze after seeing that. While the audience enjoyed the live stream, something was happening in an alchemy room on the other side of the world. Exquisite statues were placed round the alchemy room, and promotional posters of Forgotten Forest, the mystical realm made by the Crystal Workshop, were hung on the wall. It's annoying. Words jumped on the magic letter. Lately, more and more people are beginning to sing high praise of Blizzard. I'm angry whenever I hear them bragging about the so-called Blizzard Workshop. I'm furious. Yesterday, I bought a mystical realm made by the Crystal Workshop and was looked down by a player of World of Warcraft. What's wrong with the mystical realm made by the Crystal Workshop? World of Warcraft has a complete world which seems endless. Why would I want such a big mystical realm anyway? Dash from Mage Deli of Stars Magic Union. How come their mystical realms are so good? Some players of the Legend of Sword and Fairy brag about it every day in front of me. I can't argue with them. All I can do say that they have a servile attitude to foreign things. They even boast that it's the origin of the world. Anyway, I trash talk Blizzard Workshop, Softstar Workshop, and Ubisoft Workshop every day since I feel annoyed whenever I see people using their mystical realms. Damn it, when I praised the new mystical realm of the Dylan Workshop last time, someone immediately rebutted me with the alleged Dylan Workshop's failure in Sylvan Forest. I was so furious. However, I just can't argue with them. Everything I say sounds weak. At this moment, a mage commented, "Didn't you watch the last episode of Secrets of Mystical Realms?" Master Orth and Master Lywood both expressed their opinions in the show, saying that the Legend of Sword and Fairy beautifies stealing since one of the female characters is a big thief. They even proved how playing World of Warcraft and the Legend of Sword and Fairy equals to treason. What? Playing these games equals to treason? The mage, who had been lounging on a recliner, immediately bolted up as if he had just been given a shot of stimulant. He commented excitedly, "Well said. When did they say that? I want to watch it." These are the conclusions that those masters made after thorough investigation and research. The mage who previous commented replied. Soon, many more messages appeared on the magic letter. Keep away from these mystical realms. Masters issued warnings. I'm astonished. Mystical realms quality doesn't increase with the degree of complexity. Masters said that mystical realms need professionalism. Masters said that using these mystical realms might be treason. Let's see if you're using them. My goodness, instantly, these people felt like they stood on the moral high ground. Today, I'll repost them all. Ha 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 ha. I feel like we are waging a holy war, comrades. Tell you a secret, I slipped into the magic forum of World of Warcraft, and I'm sure Bedlam will break out when I post these messages in the forum. Aren't you afraid that they will beat you? How can they? They don't know where I am. The problem is, these claims don't have any supporting evidence. I don't care as long as they can give those people who love to brag a blow. Ha 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 ha. Right, I'll post them to all the people around me anonymously. Mage Deli commented, I know a damn kid near me who plays World of Warcraft and keeps bragging about it in front of me. Today, I'll send these messages to his dad. Seeing this, I'm sure that his dad will give him a good beating when he brags about Blizzard again. Ha 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 ha. Meanwhile, in the distant Sylvan Forest, a silver-haired old elf read these messages and said, these human masters seem to have solid data and facts. Elder, should we go to the so-called Origins Internet Club with some people and see what Elder Sewell is up to? Worked up by the word treason, these elves wanted to check things out with some people as if treason was being committed right now. Okay. Chapter 725, Come and play if you dare, you will be terrified. Outside the game, the players might be masters with extremely high cultivation strength and combat abilities. But in Outlast, the players were ordinary people who had fallen from a high place and had poor physical conditions. Even with great willpower, the best that they could do was fleeing since it was impossible to fight any monsters. All my preparations were in vain. Sally felt like crying in the game. In the darkness, she filmed her surroundings with her video camera, clutching onto it like a precious treasure that her mom gave her. Trying to survive and escape from so many monsters as an ordinary person who would have great difficulty catching a chicken, Sally felt like she was going crazy. The most depressing part wasn't being caught but listening to the footsteps of that fat monster while she hid in the darkness. When it came close to her hideout, her heart would always be in her throat. Besides, whenever she was about to finish the quest and get out, the priest would always stop her at the critical moment, turning all the efforts to waste. Then, she had to continue her investigation in this extremely creepy place. Having played for a few hours, Salah wondered, how come this game is so scary? In the beginning, Salah had marched up to the gate of the hospital without a care and pounded on the gate of the hospital, but now, she felt like she was going crazy in this game. At this moment, Salah's movements seemed to have alerted the deranged inmate who was trapped in a chair. This man's shouts attracted the attention of all the nearby inmates. These monsters who had been crazily tortured and mutated in the experiments had stronger physiques than ordinary people. Seeing them smashing on the locked doors on both sides of the room and trying to break in, Salah was suffocating with fear. Salah raced away while screaming, "Ha ha ha ha, this elf runs so fast." Salah thought, "I almost died of fright, how can I not run fast? Which way should I go? I guess this way." Frantically, Salah pulled open a door and dashed inside. "Who are you? You're not one of them, right?" At this moment, an electronic voice came from an unknown source. "If you want to live, come into this small lift." Sure enough, there was a very small lift which could have been mistaken as a chimney or an air duct if one didn't look carefully. Without thinking, Salah got into it. In the next moment, a large group of deranged inmates knocked down the doors and swarmed in. Salah could even see them rushing toward her location before the lift went up. With her heart in her throat, Salah thought that she was out of danger when the lift went up. However, when Salah went up with the lift, a brawny monster swung out a punch and said, "You made the right decision, sir." This monster's skin on his upper body seemed to have been torn open to reveal bloody flesh, and the lower half of his distorted face was covered by filthy bandages. When Salah woke up again, she found herself locked in a wheelchair. At this moment, Salah swiftly put down her virtual reality headset and looked at her screen as the main character got his fingers amputated. Salah felt lucky that she had scrambled to exit the virtual reality mode in time. She was going to go crazy. Then, without any bandages or any medication, the main character had to continue the rest of the exploration after two of his fingers were amputated. It had been creepy to watch the two bloody amputated fingers while climbing in the original version of the game. Now in the system version, the players also had to endure everything that the main character felt, including blood loss while they continued the game. I quit. Without hesitation, Salah quitted from the game while her pretty face paled. She was thrown into a very bad mood. The shop owner had been playing games at a nearby computer, and Salah dragged him over and pointed at her screen while saying, "Sir, how can I continue playing this game? This game, Outlast, is thrilling." The players in the old shops obviously had a different feeling. After all, they had watched it on the screens. The students of Heavenly Academy and the idle players in the Geocity shop didn't play the game but had watched it on live stream for most of the day. These people even talked about it in the group chat and had heated discussions. The elf whom I watched ran so fast, I watched her run all around the place. Which one did you watch? I watched the elf with poisonous milk. Even Sire of the Ultimate West Realm joined the discussion. What elf with poisonous milk? Ningbai asked in the group chat. Didn't you see last time? The nanny that Mr. Fang took to raid the Scarlet Monastery? Sire posted a screenshot. Ha 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 ha, these elves are all funny. I watched the elf who slid down the desk. Demonic woman Ningbai also posted a screenshot. Not knowing if she should laugh or cry, Bai said, I wonder if the elves will kill us if they knew. Mew King chimed in. But I just can't stop it, ha ha ha. At this moment, Salah noticed that messages were popping up in her World of Warcraft group chat. While she read the messages in the group, her eyes instantly widened. Hey, how come you guys even took screenshots? Salah wished that she could go over through the internet cable and kill them all, so no one would talk about her humiliating acts. Everyone turned silent. How come this elf is in the group? Nalan Minksu replied, she's my playmate in the game. Husky's disdainful face. Mr. Fang was standing beside Salah at this moment, and he tried to soothe her. This is a horror game. It's unnatural if you're not scared. I thought it was a comedy game. Salah had the sudden urge to kill the shop owner. How come this shop does things so differently? I braced myself to watch the so-called evil god and ended up laughing like a pig. Now in this game, we were prepared to show off our fighting skills against these monsters who have low combat strength, but we ended up wetting our pants due to fear. I even put the whole process on live stream. It's all your fault. He's a scummy shop owner. Mr. Fang touched his head and replied, "It has nothing to do with me. You guys kept asking me when Outlast would be released. You even trash-talked me as a scummy shop owner every day when I didn't release this game. It's your fault. It's all your fault." Hearing the shop owner toss their own words back at them, Salah and the other elves were furious. "Hey, don't be like this." Obviously not able to continue the game, many elves around Salah also put down their virtual reality headsets. "Sir, is this Mystic Realm designed for people to play? Why isn't it? Come and play if you dare." The elves glared at Mr. Fang as if they would eat him alive. Afraid that what they said didn't hold enough weight, these elves added in a hurry, "Otherwise we won't come back to the shop to play again, Humphrey." Of course, these elves amended silently, "If the scummy shop owner refuses to do it, we'll still come back and play the games despite the humiliation in the worst case scenario." In the other mystic realms, they could fight awfully using their skills. After some practice, they could manage by themselves. But in this game, they couldn't even use a sliver of their skills. Despite their powerful strength and skills, they couldn't bring any of them into the game. How could they finish the game? Chapter 726, You use Musu. Instead, you show us hide and seek? When he was in the Geocity shop, Mr. Fang had played Silent Hill for a while. Obviously, that game left a deep impression on the veteran players too. At that time, Mr. Fang gave a moderate show in which he didn't get lost, but he couldn't show off any special plays. In fact, some rumors even said that Mr. Fang was so scared afterwards that he was paralyzed by fear and couldn't walk. To get the desired effects, Salah even asked about it secretly in the group chat. The responses were, Sutanji said, "Good idea, this will definitely scare the scummy shop owner senseless." Nalan Minksu replied, "I think it can be done." Song Kingfing chimed in, "Awesome, I like your idea." Therefore, these elves were confident with their request. While staring at Mr. Fang with her big eyes, Salah asked him, "What about it? You're afraid?" "Afraid?" Mr. Fang thought for a moment and said, "It's just a game, there's nothing to be afraid of." Nothing to be afraid of? We thought so at the beginning of the game too. The shop owner must be bluffing, Salah said in a low voice. "Yeah, I asked in the group. He played a similar game before and was an average player." Rowling agreed. Some rumors even said that he was paralyzed by fear and couldn't walk in a while. "Humphrey, he will be scared witless this time." Salah said. "That's what he deserves for frightening us. So many of us elves got scared, that's despicable." A group of elves stood behind Mr. Fang and watched him play in a hurry. "In addition, I'll go buy a bag of potato chips," Rowling said. "I'll get a box of spicy sticks." Salah thought it would be great to eat snacks while watching the shop owner get scared. "Bring me one box." Elder Sewell said immediately, "One bag of potato chips too." With snacks in their hands, the elves brought over a bench so that they could sit behind Mr. Fang and watch him play. During the process, they contributed to the revenue of the shop. Influenced by the elves, some assassins and even passers-by also bought potato chips or other snacks. Soon, a large group of people stood behind Mr. Fang. "Someone is playing this game again? He will surely be scared to death." Obviously, the shop owner hadn't come to the part of finger amputation since he had been standing behind Salah and watching the elves play for a long time in the morning. In the early stage of the game, there were no supernatural phenomenon, but the fat monster was not only extremely strong but had great patience. Regardless of where or how far players had fled, he would catch up sooner or later. In fact, This monster even waited for the main character in spots that he must pass. The players would have to directly exit the game if the main character got punched by the monster. If he was caught, he would get his head pulled off his body. At this moment, Mr. Fang had come to the part before encountering the doctor who would amputate his fingers. The main character got upstairs again with great efforts but then was thrown to another zone of the lobby by the sudden explosion of the elevator. From here, the main character could go to the sewer of the hospital. If he wanted to continue, he needed to open 2 valves in the sewer. Here he comes. Salah said excitedly, I was trapped and caught in this room several times. Salah ate a spicy stick with great enjoyment. Mr. Fang ran all the way down the sewer. Hearing someone falling somewhere in front of him, he didn't spare a glance at it and turned right, dashing into a side tunnel. Mr. Fang explained while live streaming, at this time, we must run. When we run to this valve room, close the door and the valve. At this moment, all the players in old shops and the new shop were watching the live stream. Salah said smugly, you're trapping yourself inside, right? Ha ha ha, you dug a grave for yourself. Salah ate a mouthful of potato chips. Then, Salah heard Mr. Fang continue to say, now, we have only one way out, and the monster is coming from that way. At this moment, we must keep calm since we can still do something here. Mr. Fang turned around and saw that there was only one light bulb in the valve room, and it could only illuminate the area around the valve. The corner further away was pitch black. Mr. Fang squatted down in the darkest corner on the right of the entrance. At this moment, the iron door of the valve room was crashed open. What would an ordinary person think right now? They would search for barriers such as lockers and chests which one could hide behind. You must keep calm and think from the opponent's perspective and do the opposite, hiding in a place that he thinks no one would hide in. Mr. Fang squatted in the corner and could see the fat man standing a few meters away from him without any barriers between them. The fat monster looked around and saw darkness in the corner. Then, he walked toward the depths of the room where he thought people might hide in. Then, Mr. Fang stood up calmly and slipped out the door. FCK? He didn't die. The moment that the fat monster moved, Mr. Fang slipped out silently and opened the second valve. When the fat monster caught up, Mr. Fang slipped into the tunnel on one side of the sewer while he just heard the clanking noises of iron chains. The sewer area was very big, and most of the place was in the darkness. After dodging the pursuit of the fat monster at the second valve, the main character came to the last zone. At this place, the monster must be waiting for the main character in a spot ahead of him. It was all dark, and the players couldn't even see where the monster was. Mr. Fang said, in the sewer, we can't jump around or run, since you don't know his whereabouts, and he doesn't know yours. The person who makes noises will be detected first since you would expose yourself. It must be noted that the video camera's night vision function would emit dim light, which in the system version would also increase the possibility of being detected by the enemy. Therefore, the players could use it for a quick look at the distance in the darkness, but they would be exposed if they used it near the enemy. Mr. Fang used the night vision to take a quick look. Sure enough, the fat monster was waiting for him on the path ahead. Mr. Fang didn't go up until the monster went to one side to scout. However, Mr. Fang couldn't avoid making a sound when he stepped on the metal plate on the bank. Soon, he heard a series of noises closing in toward him as iron chains collided. In the darkness, Mr. Fang opened the night vision on his video camera, raced to the stairs at the entrance of the sewer, and climbed out. FCK. So easy. The audience felt like they were not watching a horror game. You're playing hide and seek? The audience spoke from the perspective of the fat monster and flooded the scene with bullet comments. Fatty, damn it, I didn't even see him in the whole game. Am I playing with a ghost? Fatty, the director told me to act with him in the sewer. Where is he? Am I still a monster? Can't you show me some respect? Is this really a horror game? I think this game should change its name to Assassin's Creed, Hide and Seek. Can we play like this? Salah and other elves had tears on their faces, thinking, I don't think you can show us the Musu, but in turn, you are showing us your hide-and-seek skills. I think this is fun. Sutanji ate some potato chips, thinking that she might try the game later. As the game went on, the supernatural phenomenon that was absent in the early stages of the game began to reveal the truth hidden in the story. Chapter 727, The Daily Life of Haters. After watching yesterday's live stream, the elves entered the shop as soon as it opened the next morning. Sir, since the shop is open, you can continue playing Outlast now? Mr. Fang looked at the elves in bafflement. It's early morning, and you guys have nothing to do but watch the live stream. Helpless, Mr. Fang sat down before a computer and continued the live stream after eating some instant noodles. Huh? The shop owner is live streaming again. In the old shops, at least half of the players had new communication jades, so it was more convenient for them to watch live streams than the players in the new shop. Some elders of Liuyun Taoist Palace and disciples of the Cloud Ocean faction began to watch the live stream while having morning tea in the passenger spiritual boats to Jua City. Huh. The live stream is on again. Mr. Fang rarely live streamed. He didn't even live stream the massive game, World of Warcraft. Therefore, most of the players entered the live stream room and watched. Meanwhile, on a street in Kanglan City, today's newspaper. A boy who was about 14 years old waved his arm and yelled on the street. As an autumn leaf slowly landed on the ground in the morning breeze, this boy suddenly felt the air turning cold and murderous. Give me a copy. The boy turned his head and saw a group of elves walking in through the city gate. The leader was a silver-bearded old man who was holding a silver staff with wood whisks. This old man's greyish-blue robe looked ordinary but was exquisitely made. On a closer look, one could even see exquisite embroidered leaf patterns which were the unique decorative patterns of the elf clan. 5 copper coins. The boy handed him today's newspaper immediately. Although mages and aristocratic knights communicated with magic letters or visual projections, this cheap and useful communication method was still popular. Today's news is all here. One elf elder read the newspaper and said, Elder, some humans are indeed saying that visiting the so-called Origins Internet Club equals treason. Look. The newspaper says that there are. He looked at the number printed on the newspaper and said, there are hundreds of thousands of humans publicly criticizing their Origins Internet Club. Hurry up, let's go to this Origins Internet Club and see if Elder Sewell is in there. Although they didn't believe it too much, the elves must give this issue proper attention. Meanwhile, in the alchemy room that wasn't very spacious, the stout mage dressed in a black mage's robe looked excited while words appeared on the magic letter line after line. He seemed to be in a magic forum focusing on mystical realms. Then, this mage reopened a post named Love the Legend of Sword and Fairy, and under the post was a comment from him. Are you referring to the mystical realm in which the heroine is a thief? What? The heroine is a thief? This mystical realm named the Legend of Sword and Fairy has such an evil theme. Is it true? I was planning to visit that shop and try it. Sure enough, this mage saw many people replying to this comment. Yeah, not only is the heroine a thief, but one of the main characters is a traitor of his faction. Besides, someone tested the so-called artifact making in the Legend of Sword and Fairy and found that it's useless. Remember, don't trust the Legend of Sword and Fairy. Ha 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 ha. After replying to many comments, this mage cheerfully opened another article which was posted by himself, listing 10 reasons not to play World of Warcraft. In the post, the mage quoted many professional comments of some masters. Next to his post, there were other posts such as, don't let garbage mystical realms mislead you in aesthetics. Holy light spell in World of Warcraft mystical realm was tested to be useless, and, don't be fooled by it. These posts almost flooded the whole forum. As a mage of the Royal Magic Union, Dickers bought a bowl of instant noodles this morning and began browsing this magic forum. Suddenly, she saw the post titled, The Heroine of the Legend of Sword and Fairy is a Thief. The main character is a traitor? Han Ling Shaw used the proceeds that she took from the tomb to help the poor people, and why are they trashing Yantan? While reading these posts, Dickers replied furiously, "Have you played it? Don't talk about things you don't understand. How come they are hating on the game so blatantly?" In the not-too-big alchemy room, the mage heard a beep. Someone replied. Seeing Dickers's reply, this mage sneered and replied, "Another traitor?" He first tossed out the accusation without hesitation. Ahia. Dickers was enraged when she saw this reply. She almost threw her cappuccino onto the floor. Dickers felt like crying in fury. As a member of the Royal Magic Union, she loved her nation, but someone dared to accuse her of treason? Meanwhile, in the distant radiant light godly nation, dressed in a bright red priest's robe, Peeble glanced at the many delicacies on the table and personally put food onto the plates of the masters with a smile. "This idea is excellent. Ha 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 ha." Master Orth smiled and said proudly, "I'm one of the administrators of the magic forum named Eye of Mystical Realms. If any heated comments defending Blizzard Workshop and Soft Star Workshop appear on it." While he spoke, Dickers was organizing words and had written hundreds of words on her magic letter. She was about to post her reply, when she injected magic energy into the magic letter to begin the transmission process. Words appeared on the letter. "Your commenting privilege has been locked!" Exclamation mark. Weiya. In the lounge area of Mr. Fang's new shop, people saw a female mage wildly slammed her hands on the desk in fury. How can they do this? At this moment, Mr. Fang was still live streaming Outlast. After the main character got his fingers cut off, the game became more difficult to play. It was scary to face the bloody hands which were not treated with any medication. Besides, this condition further weakened the main character's physical state in the game. Before his fingers were amputated, the main character still had some strength to fight with the deranged monsters, but now he lost all abilities to even struggle. The main character's body could even turn cold due to the loss of blood. It meant that the main character couldn't last long in this state. Mr. Fang was still calm in the game, but he began to pant when he spoke due to his poor physical conditions. "When we flee from the deranged doctor, we must close the door behind us since this act will earn us a lot of time." Then, Mr. Fang ran to get the keys to the elevator. After all, the elevators in the hospital needed keys to operate. The moment that the main character entered the elevator, the doctor caught up. Obviously, the doctor knew the terrain and anticipated the escape route of the main character. The main character tried to push the doctor out but obviously was too weak to do that. When the doctor got half of his body into the elevator, it began to move. My goodness. Killer elevator, another killer elevator. Salah obviously remembered how she had died from the fall in Undercity. After the doctor died, rain began to pour outside the hospital. The ominous presence got thicker in the darkness while the whole atmosphere of the game felt even creepier. It felt like something was trying to crawl out from the gloomy darkness. Chapter 728. The ending of Outlast. If the first half of Outlast was only crazy, then the second half truly turned weird. After escaping to the courtyard inside the hospital, chilly rain poured on the main character, sending shivers to the elves who were watching from behind. They felt cold just watching it. There was almost no light outside, and the occasional lightning flashes illuminated the flower bed in front of the main character. "Now, we should search the surrounding area," Mr. Fang said on the live stream, and he soon found a key in the room on his left. The dim lights in the distance showed that there seemed to be a door. It looked like the exit from this endless dark abyss. Mr. Fang ran over, opened the door, and finally got inside before seeing some lights. However, the lights were limited to the corridors on the outside. When the main character ventured further inside, he was plunged into endless darkness again as if he was swallowed by it. On the screen, there was nothing but darkness. Fang Chi opened the night vision mode of the video camera and felt his way in the darkness. Faintly, he saw a door on his right. At this moment, Sala, other elves, and students of Heavenly Academy were still watching the live stream while eating potato chips or spicy sticks. In the Yuan Yang City shop, Bai, Mew King, and other students sat in a circle on the couches and watched it on their communication jades. At this moment, Xuanhuan and others walked in from the outside. On Mr. Fang's screen, he pushed open the door and entered. Suddenly, through the night vision of the video camera, Fang Chi saw an extremely creepy figure floating from the depths of the corridor outside the door and coming before him in the blink of an eye. Ah! The elves who were watching the live stream behind Fang Chi almost huddled together in fear. Startled, Mew King's hand shook, and she threw out her communication jade. Xuanhuan had just pushed the door open and entered the shop at this moment. Thud. A communication jade hit his head. Mew King was at a loss for words. When Mew King looked back at the screen. Huh? Nothing happened? At this moment, she saw that Mr. Fang had walked out from the corridor, climbed up a wall, and moved forward while staying close to the wall. Now, we will jump down. Do you hear the sounds of iron chains? Fatty is coming after us. Now, squat down and move forward close to the wall under the cover of the grass. We must not let him see us. In the system version, everything was more real, which meant that the main character couldn't even run in his current physical state. Do you hear the sounds around the corner? Mr. Fang continued. Not able to find us, the monster will wait for us on the only route that we can take since it knows that we must go and find that Priest Martin. Now, we'll retreat a bit first. Priest Martin was the only relatively normal person whom the main character had met in Outlast. On the one hand, he stopped the main character from getting out. On the other hand, he was directing the main character to the truth step by step. Sure enough, the audience saw the fatty walking out from the corner. On the screen, Mr. Fang hid in the grass and aimed his video camera at the fatty. The fat demon-like monster looked around and didn't see the main character. The audience sent funny bullet comments and filled the scene. Ha 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 ha, awesome. Fatty, where are you? I'm so afraid. Mr. Fang, I'm observing you discreetly. Fatty, I was sent here to chase after him. But I see no trace of him in the whole game. Ha ha ha, the bullet comments are so funny. The elves almost choked with laughter. The main character continued to explore and finally got to the deepest spot underground through the elevator. The elevator went down more than 10 floors underground when it finally stopped. At this moment, the gaming environment changed to a tunnel made of white rocks. Obviously, these were rocks in the depths of the ground. At the end of the rock tunnel, the audience saw a huge underground laboratory. The lab in the depths of the ground wasn't dark, the lights were on, however, there wasn't even a single living being in it. There were only corpses in twisted forms, making this place creepier than anywhere else. Even with the lights on, it looked gloomy and chilly. The elves held their breath as they watched the main character venture deeper into the lab. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed past the corner of the tunnel. Without thinking, Fang Chi controlled the main character to turn and run. A black shadow ran after the main character at a greater speed. Through the screen, the audience could hear the main character's heavy breathing while he ran desperately. It felt like one touch of that shadow would bring extremely horrifying results. The main character raced all the way back. The moment that he opened the door, he saw a fat demon-like face. Ah! The sudden sight startled the audience. Then, a huge hand caught the main character and threw him down heavily. At this moment, the screen turned blurry. Just as this demon-like fat monster was about to attack the main character again, it was suddenly pulled up into the air by an invisible force. Then, he was viciously thrown onto the wall. The fatty's body, which was hard to injure with sabers or swords, now looked defenseless. The fatty howled and struggled while it seemed like this monster was lifted by something invisible and thrown onto the wall, ground, and ceiling like a ball. Finally, This monster's fat upper body was stuffed into the air duct and was chopped into pieces by the fan blades of the vent in the air duct. It was extremely hard to imagine how the aluminium alloy vent fan, which could be easily bent by an adult's punch, had chopped the fatty's iron-like body. The monster didn't have any ability to resist. My goodness. What was that? The elves who were watching from behind screamed. It wasn't that these elves had never seen ghosts before, but they had never seen any other ghosts so powerful before. After the ghost left, the main character found the doctor, who was kept alive on a breathing machine. The answer to why the ghost didn't kill the main character was revealed. The ghost was an entity with two consciousnesses, and one of which didn't want to kill the main character. That was why the main character was safe in two of his encounters with the ghost, even though the rest of the encounters meant certain death. There is a normal living being in this place. The audience watched the scene incredulously. He takes care of me. The doctor said, he may think I'm his father. Do you know what this symbol represents? The doctor pushed his wheelchair to the strange symbol on the wall. It warns of a nanohazard. Nanoscopic machines, technology we have had for decades, but never mastered. Turning the cells of human bodies into nanofactories. It's the natural function of cells to produce molecules, but through psychosomatic direction, we engineered the precise molecules necessary, mind over body. It was foolish and wrong to think we could control it, to use madmen to control something so strong. Yes, this wasn't a ghost in the normal sense, it was a horrifying monster combined from technology and some supernatural things. Chapter 729, The Ending of Outlast, 2. We achieved something like this in 1944, those fascists thought it was spirits. The doctor continued babbling. He also revealed the method to deal with this ghost. Since the ghost couldn't exist separately without a body, it needed a host, which was why it had two consciousnesses. What the main character needed to do was to shut off the life support system of its host, Billy. A simple example would be in the Wind and Cloud TV series. In it, the Sword Saint's physical body died first when he used Sword 23, and that was why he wasn't able to kill Xung-Ba. Now, the main character had to destroy the physical body of this ghost to kill it. Usually, it wasn't something that an ordinary man with severe injuries and poor physical conditions could do. However, since the ghost had two consciousnesses, and one of them was willing to help the main character despite its short periods of existence, this task wasn't impossible to do. Finally, Fang Chi controlled the main character to dodge the ghost's attacks and shut down the life support system of the host. The creepy black shadow pulled the main character up into the air and then threw him onto the ground heavily. During the process, its force was being weakened repeatedly. In fact, its force was weakened to such a point that it could no longer sustain itself and looked vague. At this moment, the elves were enjoying the live stream while eating spicy sticks. Suddenly, the black shadow entered the main character's body before it disintegrated. With a shrill, helpless, and desperate scream, the horrifying black shadow entered his body. After falling from several floors high several times, getting his fingers amputated, and enduring all the pain and fright for so long, this night felt like 100 years to the main character. Another person might have become crazy long ago. After this weird thing entered his body, the journalist named Miles was on the verge of mental collapse. Everything was now meaningless, regardless if his intention was just that he wanted to disclose the criminal acts or that he wanted to dig out a big sensational news story. The audience could see the main character's sight becoming blurry on the screen as if his mind was breaking down. He still protected his video camera as if he wanted to bring the results of his hard work, even one bit of it, out to the world. His sadness and disillusionment made everyone watching this scene sense a chill. After picking up his video camera, Miles dragged his heavy body toward the gate slowly and painfully. He even fell to the ground several times. At this moment, everyone watched as Miles finally got to the gate, and then the gate opened by itself. He faced dozens of black gun muzzles. In between the soldiers, the professor who had told Miles the truth was standing there. Miles, the main character, was peppered by machine gun bullets. Why? Hearing the screams through the screen and watching Miles' eyes slowly close, everyone asked this question subconsciously. After going through so many trials and tribulations and enduring so much pain, the main character still couldn't escape death. The players, who had experienced the horror and hardships in the game alongside the main character, understood his bitterness and resentment. The truth was now obvious. The whole underground lab and the deranged inmates had been part of an experiment. The experiment failed, and the ghost killed everyone in the lab. Now that the ghost was dead, the mercenaries who were moved here to deal with the ghost could enter the lab safely. Of course, the secrets underground couldn't be disclosed to the public. How can it end like this? Salah asked loudly. The other elves who had played this game also had complicated feelings about the ending. In the darkness, it seemed like only despair was left. However, the audience seemed to hear another voice rise in the darkness. My goodness, you have become the host. When Miles's body slowly fell down, a black shadow seemed to have gotten out of the cocoon which was Miles' body and evolved into a butterfly. My goodness, what's that? The elves who were watching screamed again. The screen dimmed again. When the horrifying spiritual energy got freed from the restraint of body, gunshots and screams mingled in the darkness. But this time, the screams came from the enemies. All the living beings were annihilated. After Mr. Fang finished the game, the elves stood behind him in a daze. One elf froze with the spicy stick in her hand in midair. She forgot to put it into her mouth. This was obviously a game to test the player's spirit and will. In the last moment, when the main character's spirit ascended, the players could feel the massive amount of spiritual energy which was so powerful that it could exist without a body, rule over every living being, and control everyone's life. Fang Chi could even feel the sharp growth in his spiritual energy. No one noticed that Fang Chi's eyes emitted bright glints that had never been there before, which seemed to be the result of the unusually horrifying spiritual energy. It ends like this. Then, is Miles dead or alive anyway? Is this entity Miles or the ghost? Elder Sewell asked after watching the live stream. This game looks good. What looks good? At this moment, an ancient voice sounded from behind Elder Sewell. This game. Elder Sewell said, should we continue with the game? What game? The ancient voice asked again. Outlast, Elder Sewell pointed at the screen and said. This voice sounds so familiar. Elder Sewell furrowed her pretty brows and thought in bafflement. Why does this voice sound so familiar? Captain Lance of the Snow Pigeon team also asked. Then, every elf in the area shook, and they turned their heads mechanically. The elves were so scared that they looked as if they were looking at a ghost. First elder, these elves' minds turned blank. How come the first elder is here? Also, he caught us right in the middle of discussing a game. Finished. We're finished this time. At this moment, it was clear that every customer in the shop noticed the disturbance. They saw a silver-haired and silver-bearded old elf who was dressed in a pale grey robe. Despite his old age, he looked dignified and grand while his hair and robe fluttered without wind moving them. He was flanked by elf elders and guards. The trace of anger hidden in the depths of his deep eyes looked like lava that was moving at the bottom of a volcano. His horrifying presence felt as if a storm was coming, and it slapped toward the people in the area like surging waves, suffocating them all. This old elf stood there like a holy spirit, and no one could look him directly. The whole shop instantly fell silent. We're dead, the first elder is going to lose his temper. The elves felt as if they were going crazy. They had never seen the first elder lose his temper. But, at this moment, a voice sounded. Mr. Fang put down his virtual reality headset and asked, Senior, are you here to get online? All the elves stared at Mr. Fang with their eyes wide open. Chapter 730, The Burning Crusade and the Imminent War. Senior, are you here to get online? Do I look like someone who is here to get online? The first elder stared at Elder Sewell and the other elves as he said, "What are you doing here?" "Playing online," Elder Sewell said uneasily. "It means using the mystical realms in the shop." "What's so special about the mystical realms in this shop?" Another elf elder said with a snort. "They are all humans' mystical realms. Are they any different?" "This mystical realm is different," Elder Sewell explained. "How is it different? I've experienced all kinds of mystical realms. What new tricks can it have?" "This is really different," Salah said uneasily. "You'll know the difference if you try it." "Really?" The first elder looked at these elves suspiciously. Although he had heard about the theory of treason, he knew that it was just an accusation coming from some industries which were negatively affected by this shop. However, he wondered what magic power these weird mystical realms had and why the elves came to cultivate in the mystical realm shop named Origins Internet Club every day. This was what he wanted to find out. "Humphrey, then, I'll try it. Tell me how to use this mystical realm." The silver-haired and silver-bearded elder pointed at the computer before him and said. 3 hours later. A shout rose in the shop. "I'm dead." "Ah!" Surrounded by a group of elves, an old elf exited from the mystical realm ashen-faced. "Hiss. This one is indeed different." His whole face had turned dark. 3 days later. First elder. "Do you want to play World of Warcraft? This is fun." First elder. "Do you want to try the Legend of Sword and Fairy? The scenery is superb." First elder. "You might want to try Assassin's Creed." Surrounded by a group of elves, the old elf felt dizzy. "You claim that this is fun and that is classic. Which one should I play then?" 1 week later. The Knights of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion finally returned from their raid with the painting which portrayed the happy family of 3. Then, these people continued the quests that followed. Among all paladin players in World of Warcraft, this reclusive old paladin was a great hero and one of the paladins from the legends. But in this story, he was only an ordinary father. On the one hand, he lived a reclusive life so that his son wouldn't be burdened with his father who was accused of treason. On the other hand, he silently directed his son to advance on the right path. The story showed an old man's love for his family. At the end of the quest, this old man still couldn't save his son. This old paladin whose holy light was stripped from him had to watch his son die among the Scarlet Crusade. The reminiscent words of the young paladin as he lay in blood still resonated in the ears of the paladin players. "I always dreamed that my father stood proudly beside me and watched me join the Order of Knights. We fought with swarms of Scourge Legion and brought glory to the Alliance and Lordaeron." Something in the players' hearts seemed to be stirred, and they gained a deeper understanding of holy light and glory. This story began to spread to other players of World of Warcraft. As their explorations went on, the players left footprints in Stratham, Blackrock Depth, and Zul'Gurub. The players yelled all through the night when they did the first raid of Molten Core, and they wrote the legendary chapter of slaying dragons in Blackwing Lair. Later, both Alliance and Horde players worked together and opened the gates of Ahn'Qiraj. Only one team passed the Naxxramer's graveyard. Now, 1.5 years had passed since World of Warcraft was released. Meanwhile, Dungeon Fighter Online was updated to the version with a maximum level of 70, and the players began to venture from Arad continent to Empyrean. Of course, the most important thing was that many players had made many new friends in the past 1.5 years. Under the influence of the Judgment Godly Palace, every major mages forum kept trashing the Blizzard Workshop with passion, and some nations even banned games such as World of Warcraft, but still, there were new players entering the games. Meanwhile, since the Orc Kingdom wasn't influenced by these hate comments and regulations, even though it was far away, the number of Orc players rivaled that of human players from the nearby nations. The Orc Kingdom had an architectural style totally different from that of the human nations. Their buildings looked coarser and full of strength. The semi-tribe-like cities looked very special, and the city streets were just as prosperous as those human cities. Nster was a powerful level 8 orc warrior. As an orc from the Lion clan, he had a strong lion man's face, a giant body, and a straightforward personality. He was a veteran player of World of Warcraft. He still remembered how Mr. Fang reprimanded him when he yelled too loudly while watching Rise of the Horde. It felt as if it had just happened yesterday. As a veteran player in the shop, Nster had started using the communication jade, which was said to be imported from the East continent. While walking with other orcs on the street with this communication jade in hand, he always looked proud when he saw the passers-by's envious glances. Right now, his communication jade showed a group chat in QQ named Independent Peoples in Guild Communication Group. Since QQ had a translation function, these people could talk to each other without problems. Yixio of the Cloud Ocean faction said, "Today, we will raid Naxxramas. Get there on time, guys. Got it. Got it." Do you know that in our Orc Kingdom, playing World of Warcraft is a great honor? It came from a player with the ID second group's main tank Nster. "I'm envious of you, Uncle Nster," a mage with the ID Lily said. Here is the latest news. The Burning Crusade, World of Warcraft max level 70. I just got it. A cultivator with the ID Bailang posted a short video in the group. Obviously, he was a veteran player from the old shop. New version? Are we going on raids again? Yeah, Yixio said. The first group is arranged. Uncle Nster, please lead the second group. Okay. He posted an okay emoji. Ha ha ha. It feels so good to be with these young people. I feel energetic all the time. Walking on the street in the Orc Kingdom, Nster laughed and said to his companions. At this moment, the ground shook violently. The land quaked as dark clouds covered the sky. A black light shot across the air as if it was tearing open the sky. Countless black birds filled the sky like sun-blocking dark clouds. In the distant horizon, pitch-black waves swallowed the land and sky like a tsunami. Also, people seemed to vaguely see meteorites falling to the ground. Another huge noise sounded. A communication jade dropped to the ground, still showing the virtual images of the Burning Crusade in which Illidan spread his demon wings and roared before falling into the depths of the abyss that appeared as the ground cracked.